What's up everybody, I am IAMFUTUREIDIOT and welcome back to another episode at a table this time. No outside, no desk, no face cam in the corner, at a table, so it's a new fucking thing. I want to bring you right back to when I was a little kid. And back in the 90s, when it came around to buying PlayStation games, Nintendo 64 games, they were about, and they obviously had advertisements and stuff, but when you were my age, when you were 7, you just used to go to school, come back and play some PlayStation, whatever, hang out with your friends, all that kind of stuff. Games weren't really as in the forefront as they are now. And these days we have social media, we've got Twitter, Instagram, we have like Twitch where people can play their games. We've got Facebook with things like E3, Paris Games Week, everything. It's all there, it's all pushed in front of you. So finding out about games these days is easy. If you want to find a specific style of game, you just Google it. Back in that day, you used to, as being my age, you used to either play the same games as family, like brothers or sisters, or you used to have the same game as your friends would have. And there's a game called Nightmare Creatures that came out for the PS1 that my older brother used to play quite a bit, and I used to obviously sit at the back of the room in my little pajamas, and I used to be that annoying little brother, sort of in the back of the room like, oh, why don't you go check in that corner back there? And then obviously he used to be like, I know what I'm doing. And I used to just be like, okay. Nightmare Creatures is a game I actually came back a few days later when I was a bit older, early teens, and played, and it was superb. 20 odd years later, now we're in 2016, last year, Bloodborne came out. And I'm sure you guys know about how much I love Bloodborne. Now if you played these two games, you might know what I'm talking about. And the fact that these games are very similar. They're very similar in everything, from the sort of feel, the music, the battle, the underlying themes. Both on PlayStation, they're all there, all the similarities are there. So now I want to take a little look at both of them and show you guys what I think, that this is the father, Nightmare Creatures is the father, and Bloodborne is the son. And they're so related in every single way, so have a look at this. It's cool. I love these games so much. And now I need to lean over all the way over the table just so I can... Alright, Nightmare Creatures, PlayStation 1, and Bloodborne for the PlayStation 4. I think they're both very, very, very good games, but I think they're both very, very, very similar. Now, the thing is, why do I think this? Well, the thing is, firstly...
Nightmare Creatures
was released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1, and the other talking point with Bloodborne being released in 2015, and is also known as the best game ever. But for those of you who have never actually played Nightmare Creatures, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of basically what the game is all about. Nightmare Creatures is a survival horror game for the PlayStation 1, similar to the likes of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. However, unlike Resident Evil 1 and 2, this game has a very specific art style as it draws all its inspiration from gothic horror. This game is set in 1666 in London. So as you can see from the gameplay, it's all cobbled streets, or candle lights and ominous lighting. Them small details coupled with the enemies in this game make you feel, as a player, very tense and on the edge of your seat the whole time, because you're never quite sure what's around the next corner. The big thing about Nightmare Creatures, where I think it was so alluring, is the challenge. The challenge is there with this game. This game is really difficult. The enemies hit really hard, they're very evading, they have very good programmed AIs, and that's what I really like about this game, because at the time of this game you had your Metal Gear Solids, you had your Final Fantasy 7s, Final Fantasy 8s, your Disney licensed games like Bugs Life and Toy Story, but I didn't really remember there being anything else like this. Maybe with the likes of Tenchu, but that's a completely different video for another day. But this game is tense, it's exhilarating, it's hard, it's everything that you want from this type of game. Other than progressing through each terrain's like real life London locations, which I think is fucking awesome, such as Chelsea and King's Row, you'll be facing bosses which are also difficult. There's no easy part about this game, apart from the silent walking, and there's a very ominous soundtrack underneath. You'll just be walking through and mowing down enemies, picking up items, and then coming on to eventual bosses, which are all insane. They're all super difficult. I mean, some of them, okay, if you've played the game, I know which ones you're talking about, are quite easy, but when you first pick up this game, like I did, from watching my brother play it, I sat down and I was very, very not good at this game at all. And even now, I'm not very good at this game. You might notice that I have cheats on. I'm not ashamed about that. I needed to show you this last boss because it is so difficult, but when you finally do it, when you get past him and he flies down from the church and he's this is the main guy of the whole game. You've been chasing him through the whole game. He comes down and he knocks the shit out of you and kills you a few times. However, once you've progressed through all of that and you've whittled his health down and his head just pops off, it is very, very satisfying. So all that coupled together makes for what I would consider one of my favourite PlayStation 1 games of the 90s. Now, there's one thing that we need to talk about right now, including another game which came out last year in 2015. So I think it's time for the comparison. And if you've ever turned up with the channel before, you'll know how much love I have for Bloodborne. Bloodborne came out in 2015, PlayStation 4 exclusive, and I platinumed that game, and oh my god. However, we're not talking about that, we're talking about the comparison, about how these games, I believe, are very, very similar in subject matter of how they look and how they feel and how they play. I mean, look at them, they're both cobbled streets, you've got that lighting, difficult enemies, difficult bosses, underpowered as a player, and you've got that underlying sense of fear about enemies jumping out of you and absolutely just completely wrecking your health. Well, just talking about the enemies to begin with, they are both difficult. The games basically have a mantra about them, that they are both difficult. They pop out of you out of nowhere sometimes and completely take you by surprise. Because at the end of the day, if you boil both these games down to the gameplay, is that you are controlling a character from a third-person perspective and walking through a location and attacking enemies as you go, of which both enemies are both difficult in both games. And at the end of certain sections, you'll come across boss fights, which are also even more difficult, but it's sort of like an end-of-year exam that shows you what you've learned through that section or difficult piece, and it should be easier to take the bosses down having learned what you've learned in the last few hours. But in these games, that doesn't occur, because the bosses just throw stuff at you that they're difficult, they take you down, they hit hard, they really make your palms sweaty, and it just makes your heart want to burst out of your chest. But that's what these games do, is that they present a difficulty to your player, and there's no way of getting around it. You just have to be good at the game, and that's why I think these two games marinate themselves in difficulty, and that's what it's all about, and they're the same game! Down to small details in the game. So you're in Bloodborne, you're in Nightmare Creatures, and you've just taken out a particularly difficult enemy. It's quiet, and then suddenly they burst out of nowhere, and they try and catch you off guard. And Bloodborne and Nightmare Creatures both do this on multiple occasions. You've just taken down an enemy, it's quiet, and they just want to keep you on your toes. They don't want you to relax for 1 minute. Even down to the weapons that your characters use. You have a main right arm weapon, and they both have guns. And I know a lot of games have guns, but they just feel like they have the same purpose in this game. It's not as a main primary weapon. You just whip it out, shoot the gun, put it away, and then you carry on, and they just feel the same. I don't know if I'm portraying what I really feel about this, but they have the same purpose in both games. Even down to the soundtrack, they sound really similar. I know the actual songs don't sound similar, but the actual mood and the tension. I mean, listen to this track from Bloodborne, for example. Scary, ain't it? Scary. Are you scared? I'm scared. Tensionless, isn't it? And now listen to this one from Nightmare Creatures, for example. And I know they don't sound like similar songs, but they have the same tensionous underlying feel of dread and fear and horror, and it just makes you go, ah. But that's just me. That's just what I think. I think the Nightmare Creatures and Bloodborne, they look the same, they play the same. I just think they're related in some way, and I think Nightmare Creatures is basically like the older version, the dad of Bloodborne. But you guys could be the same. You guys pick them both up individually, play them, comment below and tell me what you think. Goodbye. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Nightmare Creatures and Bloodborne, double special episode this week. Now, if you like this video, please make sure to leave a like. It takes a second, the button's down there. The subscribe button is also located somewhere below me, so hit the fuck out of that. Press that so you don't miss anything else like this I will come up with in the next coming weeks and months. So there you go, Nightmare Creatures and Bloodborne, basically the same game. Couple of generations apart. I love them both. If you haven't played Bloodborne yet, you can pick it up relatively cheap now on eBay and Amazon for probably about 20 quid, 25. Nightmare Creatures, it's a bit of a culty game, I think. You know, I picked it up for about £15, which is quite expensive, I think, for like a sort of PS1 game. You can pick up like Crash and stuff like that for fuck all. So go and pick both of them up, play them for yourself. Comment below, let me know what you think. And if you have already played these games, then still comment below and let me know what you think. Now, in any way, have a lovely rest of your week. I've been Futuridiot, and I will see you guys next week. Have a lovely afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Pooping, showering, doing the shopping. Should be sleeping because you've got work in the morning, but you'd rather watch me. That's fucking rad too. So there you go. I will see you guys very soon, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for watching. Stormtrooper.